Hello and welcome to another episode of Sharing Wisdom. I'm your host, Angie Wisdom, and today's episode I've been excited to share. Dana Grant is with me. She's an author of The Truth Within the Lie. She's a speaker. She's just an overall truth teller, and she's going to help you uncover the stories, the beliefs that are running below the surface that are causing that chaos and that need for external validation for you. So if you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or like you're doing all the right things but not finding peace, this is the episode you want to tune into. Well, Dana, I am so excited to have you on the show. You know, we were talking offline just about how I feel like we are so energetically connected. We live in the same space and world. So it's going to be a good conversation today.
I know. It's like we just like vibe. Our frequency is very, very aligned. Very aligned.
It is. And you know, everything that you do is like comes from this place of yes, performance, but no, not performance, right? Like you've adjusted so much. And I want to get into your book and that balance between it all. But I really want to start with the book because just the title alone is kind of like soul hitting. You know, when you think about the truth within the lie, and it's like, oh, okay, so we all have a lie then, right? There's a lie within us.
Yeah. In fact, if we have a need in our life, there's our identifier. There's our lie. If we have a need, there's going to be a lie attached to it. So if I need something from you, Angie, to feel a certain way, there's the beginning of the lie. Because then I'm plugged into something external, and I'm not plugged into what would it feel like if the truth ran through me, my truth, not your truth of what you think about me, not what I need from external validation, but what I think about me. So I am constantly reprogramming and plugging in what is my truth that runs through me. And that means I've got to trust. And in that expansive heart energy space, not in my ego space, it's going to shut it down and say, oh, no, you need validation before you make a move. And that's what we normally do.
Interesting. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, does this show up all the time with your clients?
All the time.
Every time they're...
Oh, all day, every day. And we talked about this before. I love one-on-one work. I love teaching because it's so simple. And the simpler I get, the more illuminating and the higher I vibrate. The more complicated I get, I know that I'm back in the ego. The ego energy is our subconscious is just protecting that. And that's our ego protecting 95% of how we show up. And we know that 65% of what we do is there, in repetition, and 85% of that is negativity. So we're trying to fix an old story. So doesn't it make sense that, is that my truth? If it's feeling super familiar, it's not your truth. It's an old situation that you're trying to get a different outcome from. So there's the truth within the lie.
Yes. So when you said if it feels like almost old, like it feels like you've been wearing this for a long time, that's a big identifier as like...
Super familiar. Yeah. Like I've been here before, I think. Like when you're driving and you go somewhere familiar, you're like, this all looks familiar to me.
Yeah.
I've been here before. And I'm just looking for a different road, a different outcome, to the same story.
Yeah. And isn't that what makes people think that it is the truth because it's been there for so long?
Yeah. Isn't that why that the 95% of what we do every day goes from our subconscious on what we've done? And we know that to be true, don't we? But it's not the truth. It's what we have programmed in order to show up in the world. And somewhere along the way, we got the message that this works and we plugged in. I love the analogy of those old switchboards from like the 1950s, when they had to plug in the phone calls. We're doing that all day long. This feels familiar. I'm going to change that story. But we don't look at the fact on that terror barrier. When we cross that, what we're really needing to do is look at what's new in our life. And the ego wants to protect that. It wants to come in and say, well, I can't help you there. I don't know that over there. So you're on your own. I'm pushing you over the cliff. And we're like, I'm in no man's land. I don't know. And we scurry back to safety because that's safe and we know it. And we're like, I'm going to find a different outcome. And I'm really going to dig in. I'm going to work harder this time. And it's never the answer.
Never. It's like, that's the, beating your head up against the wall, right? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah. We've heard all those analogies. I mean, it's so true. And that's what we do until we don't.
Right.
Until we just make the decision that I'm okay with the newness. I'm okay with taking a breath and being uncomfortable sometimes with not knowing the outcome. That, we stay married to the process and we divorce the outcome.
Married to the process, divorce the outcome.
Yeah. Doesn't that make sense?
It does. And this is why I love you and why also we are probably so scary to people because we just got on the diving board and dove off the deep end
Yeah.
in the first 2 seconds of our conversation.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's listening and going, what in the heck are you all talking about? Okay,
Yeah,
we're
what's going
gonna
on? Yeah.
we're gonna pause and we're gonna back up for you all. But this is the connection that we have, and we could
Yeah.
talk subconscious and lies and beliefs all day long.
So true.
But I want to make this so relatable for people as we dive
Okay.
through all of these questions and everything. Like, for the person listening, and it's like, wait, I have a lie. Like, how do you get, we already said something along the lines of,
Yeah.
the thing that feels so old and so normal and so comfortable likely is, but how did you, let's go from that standpoint. How did you figure out that you had a lie and what that lie was for you?
Ooh, that's a big ask right there.
Yeah.
I think that identifying it is huge, and I don't think I identified it till my 40s,
Mm.
and that was a couple decades ago. So when I started waking up, I had to make a choice without knowing the outcome. I had to stop something. For me, it was medication. I just
Mm.
woke up one day and I looked at that script of an enormous amount of pain medicine. No one cut me off. No one said you're a drug addict. I tore it up, not knowing how I was going to work through that pain, knowing that I'd been hospitalized for a decade for 10 days a month, knowing that I could potentially die. The truth is, by ripping that up and not knowing, but trusting the unknown, that there's something alternative out there, because I couldn't keep doing what I was doing. I intuitively knew that. So I trusted my intuition, tore the script up, 20,000 milligrams of Demerol. That's enough to kill an elephant. And I took it every month. I got to a point where
Wow.
that's what I was taking every month just to survive. So I had to make the decision, they're not going to help me. I'm going to have to find a way. I did not have an answer. I did not have a way. I did not have a new doctor. In fact, I tore that up. And then the universe comes in to support us. Then that doctor lost his license for overprescribing. So the universe
Mm.
took care of it, like doubled down and said, hey, you made a good decision. So I think that being plugged into source, not people.
Yeah.
Now, that doctor was my authority. It was like, okay, I said, I think this is killing me. Oh no. Oh no. You got to get that out of your head. You're plugged into stories about you. But I had to get really still with how I was physically feeling. And I also had to tap into, I started reading Louise Hay and then found out we had the same
Mm-hmm.
birthday and then all these synchronicities. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know for a year that our birthdays, there was so much about us that was alike. But I started doing mirror work and I started the process of healing, of looking in the mirror and realizing my self-worth was very low, that I was an overachiever, that I got my value, that I was very trauma driven. I couldn't set
Mm-hmm.
records with doing any of those things I did now as a lobbyist or otherwise. I mean, I still have unbreakable records and it's as a lobbyist. And what's so crazy about that, everyone used to ask, how did you do it? And I'm like, I really don't know. I was
Mm.
so trauma driven that I was so plugged into perfection and running so fast because I didn't know. And then
Yeah.
I crashed into that wall, got sick, stayed sick for a long time. We keep repeating, keep repeating, keep repeating. I go to new doctors, but I was in the same cycle. I was just plugging different people in, but I was still in the same cycle. It wasn't until I shifted that and plugged into, I don't know what's next, but this isn't going to
Mm.
work for me anymore. I had to make that decision, not somebody else. I plugged in and I was terrified, terrified.
I don't know what's next. That, like, you say, I don't know what's next, and terrified in the same sentence. Like, they
Yeah,
almost feel like they go hand in hand for people.
they do. They do. The unknown terrifies people. They want
Mm-hmm.
that. When I said married to the process, divorce the outcome, they want the
Yeah.
outcome. They want to feel one thing, safe, safe that they
Mm-hmm.
made the right decision. But every decision I made led another decision and another. And there was no one and done. It just opened the door to making a lot of decisions. Um, and I step out of that ego energy of what's right, wrong, good, bad, judging myself, and just staying in this expansive energy of this feels right. I'm intuitively, I
Yeah.
had the answer. I stayed plugged in. This feels right. I stayed out of judging myself because I'd already done that. I
Mm-hmm.
was already convinced I was a drug addict. I was all those things. I was very convinced if I didn't show up, but if I showed up perfect and didn't show anyone that I was sick for many years, that they would love me and they wouldn't love that version of me. So it's
Mm.
crazy. The pendulum swung back and
Yeah.
forth. And I think it really, I think it really messed with my children, my daughters,
Yeah.
because what they saw
I,
was perfection. And then they saw super sick. There was no balance. And being this little
right.
Libra, I'm all about balance. So, and this
Mm-hmm.
pendulum is wide and swinging back and forth. And yeah, I probably would have died. I probably
Wow.
would have
I
made it through
mean,
the year.
you said intuition, and I want to go back to that because
Yeah.
the first question was like, how did you know you had a lie? How did you discover it? And you
Yeah.
speak to this almost like one day I woke up and you had this
Yeah.
feeling, you had this intuition. I want to know and have people hear, like,
Yeah.
were you before then, would you have considered yourself a very intuitive person that you could hear all this? Or was it just like,
Mm.
man, it turned on that day?
That's a good question
Mm,
because I knew something that I was resisting most of my life. And that's I knew more about
mm,
everybody and everything. And when I tapped into that, it again terrified me. I didn't know why. Was everyone this way? Could everybody see things? Could everybody know something about somebody's self? And I didn't even have the words to put to it. I just knew that I couldn't have a strong faith in God and believe that too, because I was told I couldn't by my parents.
mm.
"Oh, you can't believe in God and you can't be a Christian. You cannot be that and be that too." And I'm still told that from the same parent today, the living parent today. But guess what? I just say, "Hey, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But I know who I am. I was born an
Right.
intuitive. Not everyone's born intuitive, but I do believe everyone can wake up and trust their intuition. And that's what I
Yes,
teach people how to
yes.
do, how to wake this up and keep plugged into it, not plugged into external people, places, things, opinions, validations, but plugged into themselves. Let their truth run through them, not someone
Hmm.
else's truth. Not
And I
everyone's
think
truth
that's
running through.
right, right, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that's important for people to hear is
Yeah.
that maybe you don't have to be so super connected to yourself to get this intuition, to get this message,
Yeah.
like
No.
no matter where you're at, because clearly you were in an altered state, right?
Oh,
You were
I was
not at
so disconnected.
right.
I was so disconnected. I was so trauma driven. I was perfection paralysis. I was a screamer. I was so out of control all the time. I was even a
Hmm.
road rager for a great deal of my life.
Wow.
I look at that now and I have so much patience and so much and I never think I'm making up for time. And I don't shame myself for what I did. I tell myself the truth now. When we know
Yeah.
better, we do better. And I'm always striving for my truth. When I know better, I can do better. So I'm always asking, what is the truth in this situation? I step back, I process quite differently. I was very reactive before,
Hmm. Hmm.
always in
So
offense, defense. And there's a key right there for the people listening. If they find themselves in offense, defense a lot, and they're in power struggles a lot, and they're just constantly needing to be validated there, and they need to be right, they need to be heard. There's your first sign. You're not going anywhere.
there's ego involved in that
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I love that people can see this, right? And I think anyone who's even listening right now, if there is
yeah,
something they're going, I've heard that before, like within me,
yeah,
I've felt it, and
yeah,
this is your sign to go back to it, right? Go
yeah,
back to it and kind of listen there. And
yeah,
I'm almost hearing you say, like, if we are okay with the unknown, we get to reframe this and go, you know
yeah,
what, there's a plan. It's okay.
yeah,
The unknown is okay. It may
yeah,
feel terrifying, but we can
yeah,
frame it as something else. There's
yeah,
opportunity there. I did
yeah.
not know that you were a Louise Hay fan. Like
Oh
this,
yeah.
a whole nother thing for us.
Oh yeah. I'm going to go back to what you just said. What do we
Yeah.
make it mean about us, the unknown? What is the own what do we make the unknown mean about us? Is it terrifying? Is it cool? Because we all have this identity we've taken on and we've got ego mass all over the place protecting us. We just have to start identifying why. Hey, just start questioning, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? Why am I showing up always doing that? And just be open to it. I say start open.
Mm.
But yes, I am a
Hmm.
Louise Hayes fan. When I started doing her work, mirror work, I mean, when I tore that script up, boom, she comes on my radar. And I read all her books and I'm diving in and I also the Four Agreements. These are my go-to books. They're always on my
Yes.
desk. And then I find out that she wears and I go and I buy this goddess ring and she always wore a ring on that finger. And I'm watching her
Really
videos now and I'm like, this has just gotten really weird. I knew Hay
so
House would pick up
wild.
my first book. I mean, there's just
Yeah.
there's so many synchronicities,
Right.
but I looked at and the final piece was her birthday and our birthdays being on the same day, same hour, all this and I'm like, I felt her presence instantly and I thought, "Oh, it's weird this weird stuff that I do going on again." But I
Hmm.
realized that
Hmm.
we have earth guides, we have angels, we have people that work in our lives with us. We just have to be open to it. I don't make it so unusual and freaky anymore. Um, but I used to. I used to
Yeah.
make that. Yeah, I'm a freak. So what I said was, I'm a freak. I can never show up doing that. And then when I showed up doing that, I was too esoteric. I was too this. And then I went back. The pendulum swung back. I did that for the first 2 years working out in the world. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
come out of the closet. I'm going to come out of the spiritual closet. Oh, I'm going to go back in. And then, I had my first podcast show was before the Dana Grant show was Spirit Unlimited with another psychic. It was California intuitive meets Southern psychic. And it was a podcast show where we did readings
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and did circles. And yeah, and we got super fans on that were just like, where's that show? And I thought,
Yes.
it's time for me to let that go and go to the next
Yeah.
level. So I think we always have to, in order, my book is about universal laws. We have to use the law that no one thinks about, and that's the universal law of sacrifice. What am I willing to give up in order to gain something new? Because if my hands are full with what I'm doing, I got to put it down. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice something in our life to open the door to what's next, what's coming next.
Always, always. Well,
Yeah.
I'm fascinated because I think we both have walked this road of very high performance
Yeah.
without a lot of
Mhm.
peace and, kind of like that groundedness and connection to source and everything at one point in time. And then,
Yeah.
as you say, the pendulum swings, and I'm like, oh, I'm hypnotherapy and I'm Louise Hay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's almost like people's heads are spinning, right? Because they're like,
Yeah.
wait a second, you were like this goal driven, like,
Yeah.
type A
Oh,
personality,
yeah.
like cut off a limb to get over the finish line. And
Yeah.
now
Now you're
you're
saying
telling me,
flow. Now you're saying flow.
yes,
You're saying slow
yes.
down,
I'm like,
simplify, make
what?
it
What?
easy. Yeah. I just did this video. I don't know where I was teaching. So there's a hard way and an easy way. The
Yeah.
hard way. You're always going to go back to
Hmm.
that. Give me your easy version of that. Why? There is no easy way. Really? That's so interesting when people say that. There's this. I've just got to fix the old way. Okay, but there is an easy way, and I think this season, just like fall right now, I'm looking at the leaves and they're gold and they're beautiful and they're starting to fall, and I'm thinking, what can I put down that I don't need to carry today? What can I put down? Because we add things up on us, and the end of the year, people have goals and mine, and I'm just flowing through this. I'm watching leaves fall, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's gearing up. I'm watching emails come in, and I've got these keynotes coming in. I'm like, wow, it's a big ending to a big year. And then I just saw the Nasdaq come in. I'm like, oh, I'm flying to New York too. Wow, look at that. I didn't take it all on. It didn't mean anything. I thought, well, my team will strategize that. I'm going to stay connected to everyone today. I'm not going to take that on
Yes.
because I would instantly go into overwhelm.
Right.
Am I going to get stuck in Boston? Am I going to get stuck in New York? I'm flying through the winter months. I don't want to do that. I just put it all down. Like, you know what?
Mm.
I trust that I'm always taken care of, that everything is working for me, not against me. And I believe this. I truly believe this. Now, the old version of me, Dana 101, this is 2.2, 1.1, she would never. She was so plugged into control. If I wasn't controlling the outcome, there was no good outcome. And I never
Mm-hmm.
got the outcome I wanted. It was a constant struggle, always hitting that
Mm-hmm.
wall and picking myself back up. I had one thing I did have was enormous resilience. And I think we all do. If you're here listening to this, you have enormous resilience.
Sure. Yeah. If you choose it, right? I mean,
If
I think
yeah,
it's within all of us, but you get to choose whether
yeah,
or not you bring that forward.
yeah.
So, what have you kind of found to be that the pendulum swinging all the way from one side to the other? And now you're in this such a divine place where you can
Mm,
absolutely have the performance in a different way because your book is amazing, your show is amazing, like your booked keynotes. You obviously have the performance, but it's from a
yeah,
different space, the easy way. So
yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of want to know for people that are listening that are like, I don't know, I'm not sold on this easy way, right? It's always
Mm,
had to feel hard in order
yeah.
for it to be worth something. Like, how do you bridge that gap for them in bringing in both sides of that?
Well, we definitely have to take action. So people that think, okay, I'm just going to
Hmm.
sit here and call it in. No, I've got to show up and do the work. We have to show up, but we have to realize when we're pushing and when we're allowing and trusting. And I
Hmm.
think that when we trust, it's a whole different relationship with ourselves than the push and the resistance. I'm just super aware of where things are resisting and what I need to look at. So I'm always asking myself, my higher self is always coming in, what's perfect about this? What is absolutely perfect about this? Because I'm always in a learned state. I'm learning all day, every day. I'm open to that. I'm learning. So I'm not, if I'm resisting, what do I need to know here? So I ask different questions. And I think that to move to the next level of any version of you, we have to ask better questions to life's circumstances and how we show up. It's just our relationship to life, and I think love and compassion are, I'm just going to throw that out there. I think love and compassion are the answer. And it starts with us and other universal
Mm-hmm.
laws, cause and effect. We are first cause. Everything comes from us. And we have to have this love and compassion for all these versions. If I kept shaming the versions of me, they got me here. I go back and I love those versions. And I'm going to tell you, I lived in shame, deep shame. And I just didn't want to show my head for many, many years. If I showed it, it was perfection. And then I would go back into hiding. And to show up and to be present in this work is powerful. And to love
Yeah.
myself, in the work, I say that, but the love and compassion I have for myself every day, and I know when shame is going to show up. Putting this book out there was very hard. And it went out, as we talked before, unedited. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, what does this say about me? No, I had to release that. And I had to take some steps and action, which meant put the book down. You're not going to pour over every word. You're not going to do that. Put it down. It's going to reach and help who it needs to reach and help.
Mm-hmm.
Trust. Yeah, I wanted to go back, pull it. They wanted to pull it. They wanted to fix it. I'm like, nope, it's already out there. And guess what? In that trust, it hit bestseller before they pulled it. They couldn't seem to pull it. It went out anyway, early. And it hit, all categories on Amazon, all 6. It trended #1. And I'm like, what is happening here? But I trusted that
Yeah.
information was out there and it was going to help. And then by sharing 14 of my stories, and people are like, you've been through so much. I'm thinking, boy, I didn't even trauma dump there. I have much more bigger stories than that. If you want them, I don't protect the stories anymore. I don't protect anymore. If I know that story can evolve and help, I'm going to share it.
Well, that's
But I'm
what it
not
was
going to
there
share it just to
for.
share it. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's there for.
That's what it's there for. And I love that. I know we talked about this before about your book going out and the edits and stuff.
Yeah.
It almost seems like so on point with a brand, right? Like if this is the message you're trying to get to people, it's like, well, then it's really walking the talk, right? I
Not
don't
only
just
that,
say it, I do it, people. Right?
I was on with the publisher and we're having this just intense meeting on pulling the release date. And behind
Yeah.
me, we said, well, let's put this up here so they can see it. It says, trust the process. There we go. Trust the
Yes.
process up there.
Yes.
And it's behind me. It's in front of me, lit up. And I'm like, oh no, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to trust the process. This is a go.
I
And
love it. I
we're
love
good to
it.
go. We're launching. Yeah.
You talk about shame and you really talk about kind of like our old mess and
Yeah.
hiding that. When people are hearing this now and going, I have something that I have beat myself up over, I'm carrying shame around. We know that prevents them from really stepping into their
Yeah.
greatness there.
Yeah.
How did you reframe that? Like, or how do you tell your people to start reframing that mess into the greatness? Like you said, like if I have a story to share and it's going to impact somebody, I'm sharing it. So
Yeah.
what's the reframe for people that are carrying that?
Mm. You know, if I share a new story, even on stage, like last year, I shared a new story about the medicine. Maybe it was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous. I'm sharing something new. It's not known the outcome of that audience of 300. And there was about 350 in the, I mean, they could have said, I could have changed my whole relationship with them because what they saw before that, they loved me all day long. I was the last speaker that day, but that day I was the closing speaker, which was, I had a big story. And it left a huge impact. I was in that room actually. The end of that was I had to change my relationship to the story. Shame would have prevented me from sharing what I needed to say and stay in that flow and the simplicity of not covering up that story, not making it sound better, not protecting it, but just opening my heart and saying, this is what I went through. Can any of you identify with that version of yourself? And
Mm.
I was in that room until hours later with lines lined up of people saying, oh my God, that story, my mom, my sister, my aunt, me. And it was life shifting for hundreds of people. I was blown away. But we have to tap into our truth. That story was my truth. And we have filters and layers that we go through to get to just the simple truth. This is who I am. This is what I went through. But the ego is going to protect it and package it and defend us. I'm not that. I'm not that. That's not me. I'm this. We have this version of us that we want to present and protect. Are you willing to just put a different lens on and have a different
Mm-hmm.
relationship with the truth and not make
Yeah.
it mean anything about you? Doesn't mean anything about you. It just means that you love that version of you And that's what I always tap into. Every time I tell a story about myself, I'm loving that version of me. And I'm not shaming her. I'm not shutting her down. I'm letting her speak her truth. And she trusts me now. She didn't, it took work, it took years. She didn't trust
Yeah.
me. And it doesn't have to be that difficult, but I was a difficult caper. I was very resistant, very protective, and very driven. Very
So
much. My image meant a lot. My image,
yeah.
and I knew if I told the truth, all that went away. I thought.
That
I
was
thought
your
it was
story.
that was my story. It's all
Yeah.
gonna go away. What are people gonna think about me?
And now look, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even you saying that story, all the people that were lined up. So I was
Yeah.
going to ask you, and you kind of started alluding to that, like the layers of where the truth gets hidden under. And you mentioned the ego, but
Yeah.
what are some other, like, what are those telltale symptoms or those layers that people are going to have to start pulling back and going,
Yeah.
if I
Like
want
an
to get to the
onion.
truth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's almost like an onion. We peel it back and we ask a question and, there might be an aha moment. They might say, "You know what? They might say something like this. We get signs. The universe is
Mm-hmm.
so full of signs. The more we start calling them in, the more they're just popping up everywhere. Like I look down, I'm like, oh, 101. And I look down the other day when we were talking, I'm like, oh, 111. We get, for me, it's numbers, it's birds. But if they just slow down and look around them at the signs, what they might think is, the white car syndrome. I'm going to go buy a white car. And then we see
Mm-hmm.
white cars everywhere. It's the minute you focus on something, your mind is going to focus on something. Your life is going to follow. So I think just slowing down around that and asking putting a different filter there. What would it look like if I did this instead? You can start playing around with the energy of that. Like, what would I do if I did this? And start with the micro, not the macro. Very small moves. They can make increment moves all year long. And the end of the year, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, look where I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's Everybody wants the big macro because they want something big, and then they do the active comparison. Well, they're there and they're younger. The active comparison will keep you in that tailspin. It's a tailwind, and it's like step out of that. Stay in your own lane. I say while you're building, plug into some good mentors, good coaches, and ignore the rest. Ignore it. This is where we need the blinders on. I like those horse
Right.
blinders. You just put them on. Stay in your lane. Stay plugged into you. And if something inspires you, let it inspire you, but don't compare yourself to it. Like you and I are
So
so
good.
similar with our work, but we speak a different language. Our
Mm-hmm.
energy is so vibrationally connected. I adored you from the minute I met you, and like just a sisterhood. But I knew that we will vibrate differently in the universe out here for people, and some will love me and some will love you. They might like us both, but they'll be drawn to one. But it's never
Right.
a competition. It's about the collective and knowing, just watching the flow and letting people get the help they need. I do it all the time. I'm a huge collaborator. I'm like a woman who supports women that really wants
Mm-hmm.
to support women. It's like I send clients out if I'm done, and I intuitively know when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they might not be done. I will refer out. I think it's really important to plug them in to who I know they might hear better than me.
Mm.
I'm not always the answer.
So good. I even as you were saying that, and I know this, but like
Yeah.
hearing your words, because I'm picking up on the energy that people might be feeling
Yeah.
as they're listening to this podcast, and you say
Yeah.
like it's okay, like somebody might like
Yeah.
somebody and someone is going to choose it.
Yeah.
We're all created one of one.
Yeah.
And if you just like when you can just trust that and
Yeah.
stop needing and going after, like, man, I
Yeah.
could even feel my body relax in
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
that's the ease.
Give yourself permission to, do what's
Yes.
best for you, not what's best for everyone else. You can see when people are trusting themselves and when they're not. You can see the deer in the headlights and like, I don't know what's going on, to where I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting it in this aha
Yes.
moment. And the aha moment can look like this. Huh. I don't know about that. Just slowing down around something that you would normally just key to and go right away.
Mm-hmm.
This is my go-to. This is what I do. I'm going to slow down around that. It's kind of like losing weight. We want to lose weight. Well, we got to slow down around the things we know are not great for us and say, what can be
Yeah.
another alternative here? It's the same solution based, ideas, thoughts are leading our life. Every cell in your body is listening to your thoughts, and your little life is
Mm-hmm.
leading. Every version of you from 6 years old on is following behind you, and you're leading with your thoughts. You want a different life? Reprogram your thoughts.
Absolutely. Simple said right there. You
Yeah.
talk about asking questions and self-trust. Like, I love that. You know, that's near and dear to my heart. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, in your experience and when you're working with people, do you feel like they have to have that relationship of self-trust? They have to build that first before they can start doing some of this work and asking the questions and being able to peel
Mhm.
back the layers to get to the truth? Or is the self-trust kind of developed in that process?
I think it's developed in the process because
Yeah.
I picked up mirror work and I did the daily mirror work. I love you, Dana. I would say my full
Yes.
name. I love you, Dana Marie Grant. I would say that. Did I always believe or trust that? No. And affirmations don't work for everybody, but we have to do that portion of it with. So I think reprogramming is very important. So when we don't know
Mm-hmm.
where to start, let's start easy. Let's start simple. Can you go to the mirror and just say, "Hey, I love you." Every
Mm-hmm.
morning, just one small thing. Can you do that? Do you know how many people think that that's just, "Oh, I just didn't have time for that." When they look in the mirror all morning long getting ready, but they can't slow down enough and look
Right.
at take a deep breath and clear and just say, "Hey, I love you. You're gonna do incredible things
Yes.
today," And I always say in the morning, I wake up and I say, "All is well in my world. I am safe. I am
Yes.
loved. I am protected." So, I started off with a huge safety wound. I was violated. I had trust issues. I abandonment. It was all over. I was a red hot fire mess. And I think, yeah, I didn't even know how to trust myself. I didn't even know I didn't trust myself. I
Mm.
thought because I was plugged into external and everyone else trusted me, I was such a leader and I was so always out front that I had everyone believing that they could trust me. When it came back to, I had to reveal that, man, I don't even know what that means. So I had to reestablish that trust. And what came out of that was a new version of me that I knew how I could trust me. And I
Mm-hmm.
knew that all along she was there with me. I just changed my relationship to self.
The
She was
most
always
important
there.
thing that we can do. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love how simple you made it. And for those who are going like, what are you talking about mirror work and everything? Louise
yeah,
Hay,
yeah,
this is such a good starting point for people. And I always say, like, if
yeah.
you can't
Got it right there.
say it in the mirror, then that is definitely the place that you
There
need
it
to
is.
start.
Such a little book,
Yes.
21
Yep.
days. You show up and it's so simple. It's so easy. You have
It
no idea
is.
how resistant people can get around this and the four agreements. Another one, be impeccable
Yeah.
with words. Keep it, what people say about you has nothing to do with you. And it never has and it never will and it never does. Just like when that book went out, I could have focused on, oh, and look at it's crazy. I look down
It's
and I'm seeing
111.
111 signs coming in. But I could have made that book mean something about me. See, you're not as smart
Yeah.
as you thought you were. It- you know, because I channeled that book and came up with twice as many pages, I let them cut, 200 out. And I had to just trust the publishing process that kind of fell apart a little bit. And you know what? That's okay. I didn't make it mean anything about me, but it didn't mean that I was not uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable. And I thought, well, what are you going to do about this? What are you making this mean about you? And it came up, the old story. Are you really as smart as you think you are?
Mm.
Years and years of that validation because this is our subconscious, 95% validate. See, we were right, weren't we? And that's always going to come back. And we just have to laugh sometimes
Always.
and say, oh, you're relentless. And I talk
Yes.
out loud. And we talked about that pink chair where you can't see it. It's behind me now that used to sit next to me. And I used to just have conversations with different versions of me and ask them, do you trust me? So this is where we create that trust to connect to different versions of us that we have. And we have to visualize and love that version. If we're shaming where we were and we're hiding and we're not loving those versions, we're not going to evolve. We just aren't.
Hmm.
It's so
So
simple.
true. It's so true. You said something that is so important for people to hear, where you
Mm.
said, even when the book came out, so you've done all this work, you live
Oh,
in
yeah.
this, great space of your intuition and your gifts and everything. And you even said that voice came back and said,
Oh,
maybe you're
yeah.
not as smart as you think you are.
Yeah.
So I want people to hear, like, the voice doesn't
Go
necessarily
away.
go away. That does
No.
not mean that you
Yeah.
haven't grown. And I see people do that all the time where they're
Yeah.
like, man, I
It's
thought I made
back.
progress.
It's
I
back.
thought I grew. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
you
Like
have.
psoriasis. It's back. What have I done
Yeah.
wrong? Yeah, it's like, no, you haven't done
Right.
anything wrong. Yeah. If anything, I say that's a learned moment too. It's like, oh, look at that come back. Look how relentless those stories are. And that's why we stay stuck. I say people don't stay stuck. Our stories do. And because we're
Mm.
trying to get a different outcome. So what outcome could I have gotten out of that? I would have poured over that book, highlighted every mistake, beat myself up, said, see, can't trust yourself either. You should have gone back. You should have, the finger pointing moments. You should have done this. You should have done that. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. If that is coming out of your mouth, stop, halt, let it go. Let it go. And that's what I did. I closed the book up and haven't opened it since. It just keeps moving. And I'm like, great. Super.
And it's amazing when you detach like that and you let it
Yeah.
go and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it wasn't that big of a thing after all.
Yeah.
Like it was what
Yeah.
you were making it out to be, for sure. People
Yeah.
think,
And December 12th, I just got it today. I'm going to be on that huge NASDAQ and the big one in New York.
yes,
And
oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
oh my gosh, that's so great. And I'm like, how did I even do that when I haven't even picked the book up? And then I went on the Camino for a month right after it launched, and I brought it along with me. And it's crazy. My relationship. I have a relationship with that book.
Yeah.
And but I chose not to give it all my power. I chose to put it in my backpack and carry it with me, show it lots of beauty and how we were going to walk off and release every step I did on that Camino, from Porto to Santiago was releasing
Yes.
any parts of my ego that wanted to make that mean anything about me, because it's exhausting. It's
Yeah,
exhausting to keep picking that up.
it is. And that ego is it's sneaky.
Sneaky. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sneaky. And before we know it, we're back in it, overthinking, overdoing it, like, oh, I just went into the abyss. Sometimes that happens. And we're like, oh, how can I change my relationship to that? Why did that come in? You're just asking, you're just being aware, saying, you know what? I do know a better way. I'm sometimes we can't shut down the negativity, especially if we're in fight or flight. And we're
the
in that,
questions.
Yeah.
Yes. And the questions are huge. I have, speaking of questions, I have two questions for you around this. One,
Okay.
the shrinking. You talk about shrinking, and
Yeah.
what does that look like for people? Because you even said, and I think if you were to have given the book the power, right, and over shamed or edited, right, all of a sudden we're shrinking again. So
Yeah.
if someone's going, gosh, am I shrinking? Because I think you and I've talked about this, like connection is huge, impact is huge. Like we're moving into a season where it's never been more important. So if we're shrinking, we're actually getting so far from the other side of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We won't go into the shadow of ourselves, but that is some deep cave work. We're going, I want people to visualize there's a version of you that wants to go back into the cave and it wants to hide. Because what would it mean if you showed yourself or you spoke your truth? Am I going to be judged? Am I going to be shamed? Are people going to say, oh my God, I can't believe you did that? Are you going to make that mean something about you? Or can you sit there and say, yeah, I did that and I survived it. And I'm here to show you could do better. We shine the light on it, and I think that the light and people might say, well, what's the light? We come out in our truth, and we can't come out here to our truth first until we start the one-on-one work with ourselves. Because there's no greater integrity you're going to have with anyone than yourself.
Yes.
And if I continue to lie to myself and say, oh, that didn't really happen, let me sugarcoat it, I wouldn't reach the people that I need to reach. I need to say, listen, I remember that moment. I was terrified. My legs were shaking. And then I tried to pick it up and I tried to think it's a triplicate. I could put it back together, even if I wanted to. So I think I had to stay. And I'm going to tell you, the adrenaline that was shooting through my body, my head was shaking. And I thought, what am I going to do? And then the universe said, good decision. And a week later, his license got suspended, eventually pulled. So do you see how I came to that? It would have eventually happened. I could have gone to another doctor. They would have been fine. I was so sick. I was the top 2%, even at the universities. The papers were written about me. I was really ill. But I also, so interesting we bring this up, but I also, people are like, how did you do it? Did you detox? I never detoxed. I never did anything. I tore that up. I knew there had to be I just stayed with one thought. There has to be another way. If I'm going to trust this, there's got to be. I can't live this way anymore. I can't survive. My survival mechanism were coping. I was over. My life was really falling apart. And I was very unhappy. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I was losing. I saw the distance of my relationships. I was keeping people at arm's length. I didn't want anyone to come in and see the mess. And I think we have to show up for ourselves first and say, okay, I'm going to make this decision. And then the universe just comes in and supports us, and I think there were moments that year, I think I wanted to run back to the doctor and I wanted to say, help, I can't do this. But I didn't, that this book fell in my lap. Interesting.
The mirror work. It
Didn't even
is.
know who she was, didn't even know our connection and how she would play
Wow.
such an intricate role in my life. I mean, these are not synchronicities. This is purely guided. So for
Right.
me, I was late to the party. You know, I often say I was in my late 40s, really mid 40s when I woke up and I went through menopause. So there
Mm-hmm.
were some huge life shifts happening. And I think that we have to look at when life shakes us up, whatever it is, are we willing to let go of what was and
Mm-hmm.
create another version of ourselves that we don't know yet. We don't know the outcome. And I think you know this as well. It's none of our business. It's none of our business the outcome because it can be far greater than anything our mind, our high low has ever hit.
Right.
I don't do it with numbers. I don't do it with my clients. I don't do it. I leave it completely. I keep that ceiling off because the universe, God, whomever they plug into up there, source, is so much bigger than anything I could create. And I think that's a vibrational tap in. So it means I've got to clear all the time. It means I have to be very aware of the stories that come up, what I'm plugged into, who I'm plugging into, what do I make it mean? And after a while, you start to practice this. You know,
Yeah.
what did they say? We practice what we preach. We practice it, and it becomes
Mm-hmm.
my new habit and my new go-to, just like that it did before. I went to medicine. I tried. I mean, the energy. Could I have if I could have those years back? And then I did that for a while. I mourned. I grieved, and I'm like, oh, I want those years back. It took my youth, and I thought, you're not going to get them back. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to
So
still grieve that?
real.
Yeah. Oh, it was. Yeah. And I thought, okay. And then 60 hits and 61 hits, and I'm like, oh wow, they're not playing. I better get
Mm-hmm.
moving.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? What does it mean get moving? That means I don't have any time to waste on the nonsense of those stories. When I'm dead
So
and
just,
gone, yeah, no one's going to remember that.
yeah, so insightful. And I'm writing words down as you're saying this because I just think this conversation is going to be so powerful for
Yeah.
so many people. And I'm writing down words like honesty and trust and integrity. And the big thing I wrote down with the big circle around it is being open and excited about the unknown.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Really excited and anticipation.
Yeah.
Where I just had a mastermind before this podcast and trying to get people to think of like outside of what, don't
Yeah.
tell
The
me you're going to create
expansiveness.
something that you know you can do. You know what I mean? Like get crazy,
Yeah.
dream big, like let
Yeah.
it go. I mean, think of
Yeah.
something, but like, yes, the unknown, we don't always have to know exactly how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
And I love that that's the message radiating, resonating with me as well.
Yeah. And
And I want,
patience. And
and what'd you say?
patience.
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 Yes,
Yeah. We have to be
for
patient.
sure. Yeah.
I was never patient. It was here now control. I had to get it done and I got it done faster and better than anybody. And that wasn't always the right way to do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's what controlled me, and I needed validation from that. Or what did that mean about me? I'm not smart enough. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not good enough. I'm not lovable. So I think that it starts with, what if love is the antidote? What if loving ourselves is the antidote to all of this? What if we
It
just
is.
poured love into us? All the crevices and caves and cracks, because I think I was shattered a million times,
Right.
and I every time I do that, I think, wow, something big must. So when that excitement, every time something happens, I'm like, okay, something big must be coming. If there's big resistance,
Yes.
I don't say, oh, why is this so hard? It's like, oh
Yes.
gosh,
Oh
something big must be
yeah.
coming. I change my relationship to it. And it is always true. When you vibe there, big things show up. If I vibe like, oh
Absolutely.
no, oh no, oh no, why does this keep happening to me? This is just my life. You don't understand. You've been lucky. I'm not lucky. Oh no, I've heard it all and I've been there. I
And
could
you
have let, yeah,
you will
yeah,
attract whichever road that you decide to go down.
absolutely.
It,
So
it,
yeah,
it that is your destiny, whatever you believe, whether this is happening to you or for you and attracting and all of that. So
yeah,
it's just, and the
yeah,
love ourselves. I mean, I could have a whole episode with you on that because
yeah,
it
yeah,
gets thrown around a lot. And you ask
yeah.
somebody, you're like, talk to me about how much you love yourself. And you can almost see them get uncomfortable, right? Like,
Oh
of course I
yeah,
love myself, but it's
yeah,
like, do you really, really love yourself? Because if we
yeah,
really pull back that curtain and go, if I love myself, would I be doing all these things? Would I be treating myself this way? Would I be neglecting myself this
yeah.
way? And it really does start there.
Yeah, and
As
not love
people
myself in
are,
the
yeah,
perfect moments. Yeah, the perfect moments or the achievable moments, or love myself when I'm a bestseller, or love myself when I
right.
get all the validation. No, I had to love and hold space for the person that was growing, learning, falling off the wagon, sometimes yelling and being frustrated because I didn't have the tools yet. and I didn't have all the language, but if they could start small and upgrade their language, something they can do every week, and then say, check, did it, and I'm going to incorporate something else in now. And just
Yeah.
start a small routine with yourself. And I think that everything we are is what we attract. So,
So,
the law of
so good.
attraction. Yeah.
It is. It is. What is the practice? I want to wrap up kind of around this as people are sitting in this and going, yes, more, more, more. I want to get to this space. You've laid it out so beautifully. What are some of the daily practices that you do? And I know you just said you did the mirror work and those simple steps where it's like one thing right now to start building
Yeah.
that self-love or to create the space for you to be.
Right.
What does Dana Grant do every single day?
Wow. Well, not a lot of people do this, but I do. Between 3 and 4 in the morning is the most spiritual time, and it's quiet. So I meditate. So meditating looks different to everyone, but I connect. And I have my own practices that I say and do. And I move right to the mirror. I get up and I say first, I am safe. All is well in my world. All is well. So your most dominant thought in the morning will tell you what you're thinking about and what you're frightened of. And so I do my mantras, and then I wake up. And usually I'm up without the alarm at 3 a.m. every morning. I meditate. I go right to the mirror when I go into the bathroom, and I say, hey, I love you. And I talk to myself, and I meet myself where I am. I'm honest. Today I don't feel the best. How can I feel better? Okay, we're going to go when the sun comes up, because I start way before the sun comes up. I'm going to go and put my face in the sun. I did that just before I came on. I ran out. I said, I got 15 minutes. I'm going to put my face in the sun and just do some breath work. Just get into my body where my truth is. I try to stay out of the brain where I'm overthinking, and it gets clouded, and it just gets anxious about, delivering. And I think if we can stay out of that delivering and being connected to what and who we are, and stay connected to your truth, which is, hey, every day I meet myself where I am. Every day is a different day, but I love every version of myself. Even the version over the weekend that said, I'm so tired I can't get up. And I had a lot that I wanted to do, and I didn't do it. But no shame in what I did. I read, I took care of myself. I took a lot of baths, and I'm like, "Oh, you don't have time for this." The story still wanted to come in. Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, we need this desperately. We need this." And, so again, I just changed that relationship. And I think that's a powerful tool, changing our
It
relationship with
is.
yourself.
It is. That is just, you walk the talk and you share
Mhm.
so much and you're so vulnerable. And I know this podcast is going to change many, many lives. And it's going to be one that people
Mhm.
have to listen over to a
I
few
hope so.
times because of the depth and because
Yeah.
maybe you're going to hear something in the very beginning. You're like, that's it. And then you're going to leave the rest for another time and you're going to come back and you're going to go, and
Right.
now this. But
Yeah.
you were just a shining example of you can. You
You
can,
can.
and it's about how you show
Yeah.
up and the
I can,
choices
I
that you
will.
make.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
yes, yes,
can, I
yes.
will.
So I'm just so grateful for you. I love
Mhm.
our energetic connection. And
Yeah.
we talked
Me
earlier
too.
about how, man, there was some resistance for us. Like there,
Yeah, yeah, universe did not want that, and look down. Every time I look down, 101, 111, so much
yes.
connection, and so much vibration of, and that just
Yeah.
tells me that I gotta work harder, somehow in making this happen. Because when we
Yeah.
get that kind of resistance, you have to say, "Oh, what is that about? That's so interesting." Just like when I hopped
Hmm.
on it, it tried to reroute me and not get me here, and when you were on my show, it took,
Yes.
like 6, I mean, it was crazy. The amount of,
Yeah.
and I thought, "This never happens. Why is this happening?" And I thought, "Oh,
We
she's a
had so
hive,"
many
and I,
firsts.
yeah, so many, but I knew who you were, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I know. And that's a
Yeah.
powerful woman there. She's got things to say.
We're
She's
getting
got things to say
blocked.
that,
Uh-huh.
yeah, they are gonna change people's
Absolutely.
lives and their minds and their relationships, and that's where it starts. So, I
Yeah,
adore you,
it does.
Angie.
It does.
So grateful
Likewise.
for you.
So, oh my goodness, for everyone who's listening and going, how do I get more of Dana Grant? I mean, get out there, get the book, The Truth Within the Lie. You have so much goodness in there. And so that is where I would say number one. But you also have your podcast,
Yeah.
so much going on. What do you want to share with us that people can really tune into right now more than anything else?
Well, the Dana Grant Show, which
Yeah.
you will be coming up, on an episode at sometime, I think, in January,
Mm.
and, I can't wait. I know how perfect to start off the year with that.
Ooh,
And, let's see, I hang out most on Instagram. If I get out
yeah.
there, it's Instagram, and there's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's all the platforms, but I'd say
Everything.
Instagram is where they can connect, and I always try to answer people. If they ask me a question, I try to, might take me a couple of days, but I'll
Yes,
answer.
yes.
And you have so many speaking events coming up. I'm just kind of curious for people, are they usually private, like through companies, or are there any floating out there for you right now where people could come and purchase a ticket and see you?
Well, actually, there are 2 coming up that are I think tickets are still available. I don't know if they're sold out. Sonoma County is on the 4th, the Sonoma County
Mm,
Women's Association. That's in, Santa Rosa, California, and that's
okay.
that is an open event you can get a ticket to. I think they still have tickets. That's coming up really quick on the 4th next week. And then the week after, I think the 13th, 14th, I think it's the 14th is in Boston, and that
Mm,
is the Elephant Women's Circle. And this is an intimate group of women, and it's at the Federal Bank Building. It's a beautiful event, and there are tickets available for that.
oh, love
I
it.
just found out there's a VIP ticket left and tickets available for that. And it's a good, powerful event. It's about coming in the end of the year and assessing and getting
Mm,
really truthful. But I'm a keynote of both those, and it's a great group of women. Great group of women.
so important. Good. We'll get that out
Mm.
there in time then for people to jump in
Yeah,
there. So
yeah.
thank you again for being such a light and for connecting with me energetically, Dana. You are such a blessing.
Thank you. You are too.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Sharing Wisdom. If you're listening to this right now and it stirred something within you, maybe just this moment, this calling, and you know someone else who needs to hear the same message, share it with them. Share this message and lift somebody up, be that inspiration. And if you enjoyed this episode, leave a comment, like, subscribe to get all future episodes. And be sure to follow Dana Grant. You can find her on Instagram and grab her book, The Truth Within the Lie. We'll see you next time.